coming over tonight.
Well, you know, the thing is, a lot of that stuff. Good to meet you, Alex. You're the chef and the producer and the camera. I mean, you're multitask. You need a raise. Don't say that too loud. Oh, his head perked up when he said it. He heard it.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy Canale, and welcome back to a chaotic, we haven't even started yet, we're chaos here on the patio at Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria and Wine Bar, where the good times roll and the wine flows. My name's Tommy Canale. I'm the host of the show today, and pretty much every week I'm going to introduce our panel, and then to the man whose name is on the show, and him and I are going to have a little bit of conversation about this patio and the beautiful food here at Dom's. But first, joining us today, he's been handicapping and betting since the mid-'80s. He doesn't claim to be an expert, but does compete in many contests, appears in several shows, and even with Matt Humans on VSiN. Check out systemplays.com. Welcome to the show, Doug Fitz.
Thank you very much. Pleased to be here.
And joining us today for the first time on this side of the microphone, he's usually in the audience. You guys hear him asking questions. 10 years of betting experience, and the guy's got a wealth of knowledge with an IQ that's probably more than the other three of us put together. That would be Ray LaMarca.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here. Can't wait to start this show.
Also, the man probably doesn't need any introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. A man that is the undisputed champion in sports handicapping, Jim Feist.
Well, I don't know about the undisputed. There's a lot of good guys in this business and have been for a long time, but I've had some pretty damn good luck. But I'll tell you, the reality of this is a tough way to make an easy living. Okay, I mean, I know poker players say that all the time, but I went through a streak the last 3 weeks. I was 24-10, betting some sizable money, and then I hit this week. Well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I can't say that I've picked all losers, but I'm pretty close to it. So, you know, it's just, that's the way it is. It's like playing dice. You roll it, sometimes it doesn't work, it does work. But over a long period of time, which is like 6 decades now for me, and I know I look only 21, but it's just fine. It was 6 decades.
You could get carded.
Come on now. But it's been good. It's been a good career, and I'm looking to turn it around tonight.
Well, before we get into NFL, you have picked one winner.
What's that?
And that's Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria. I mean, this place is, this patio, I say it every time I'm here. I feel like this is my second home, like I sleep here half the time. I'm on this patio so much. But this is a beautiful climate-controlled patio. It can be used 365 days of the year. The food here, am I lying when I say it's outstanding?
It's remarkable. That's Albert Scali, it's the owner. Alex is now the cameraman, producer, and chef. So he does a lot of things, this guy.
And you know what else he does? He just created what I'm going to call, it's a new pasta dish. He had me try it just the other night on trivia.
Oh, yeah?
He's putting it on the menu. We don't have a name for it. I've never done drugs, but this has got to be close. It's like Alex's winter, I don't know, creation. This thing is phenomenal.
Really? I got to try it.
Shiitake mushrooms, a pesto cream sauce, over pasta. I don't eat meat, but he can also take pork belly, crisp it up, put it up on top. I mean, it is phenomenal.
All right, we got to try that. Yeah. I have to order to take it home because I run when I leave here. But anybody ever have a detached retina?
Me? I have one.
Well, I have one right now. It started last night. It's like somebody got a flashlight in my eye. So I'm going to head to the eye doctor as soon as I leave here today.
You should probably put some glasses on.
Yeah, he probably will be wearing glasses in just a few hours. But before we get into it, let me read off some other stuff that's going on here at Dom's. $11 happy hour specials. Happy hour goes from 2 to 6. 50% off all bottles, all glasses from 2 to 6. And $11 happy hour items, including a small cheese pizza, chicken tenders, Philly fries, eggplant pizzettes. If you're not doing it, you're missing it. $15 lunch specials. Everybody here that's here for the show is getting the lunch specials. And you call it $10 Blanton's. Anything you want with Blanton's, $10. And if you want to really get involved in Dom's, then you must play trivia. I host trivia, and this thing is, I'm not kidding. Jim, we started 1 day a month, and now we're up to, Albert wants to go 2-3 days a week, and it's filled up. we have waiting lists to get in to play trivia here on the patio every Tuesday or every Thursday. You text 702-670-0012 and I can tell you when you can play next, but it's fabulous. You got to come play trivia.
So this place is full?
Full? Yeah, it's overcrowded full.
Really?
Yeah, you can't
Wow.
move in here. Come here Tuesday at 6:30 or next Thursday at 6:30, and you go watch from down below. We'll put tables there so you can watch. I'm not kidding you. It's not a
Is
joke.
there something new happening with the trivia in January?
Yeah, Albert is here.
Oh, no.
So we some of the good things that happen by accident, and this happens by accident. January 2nd, we're doing an 18 and over crowd where we're going to do sexy trivia. All questions about sex, sexual images, sexual music. We'll probably give away sexual prizes.
Are clothes optional?
Maybe.
Is there going to be more women there than right now here?
Well, I can tell you trivia is about 70% women.
Oh, wow.
So there's that. Yeah. He's not here right now, but a good friend of Albert and I, George, who's in Philadelphia, he likes to come to trivia. You know, he said he just takes numbers and gets dates. So
Not all of us can be George, that's for sure.
yeah, we all want to be George Mastorano. But I'm telling you, you got to come check out trivia here on the patio. But let's transition to NFL football. Jim, I want to start with you and then get Doug's take on this. The Chiefs, are they lucky or are they good or are they both? 15 straight wins now. That goes back to week 16 on Christmas when they lost to the Raiders at 20-14. Going to the Bills this week as underdogs at 2.5 last time I looked. But are they that good or are they lucky?
They're both. They were lucky last week. They should have lost to Denver. That tip on the field goal, everybody saw it, of course. They should have lost the game. And Andy Reid, well, first of all, Andy Reid has a long history of winning even before he went to Kansas City. He was with Philadelphia, McNabb, all that stuff. And he knows how to win. He's got Spagnuolo's the defensive coordinator. He's probably the best in the business. There's others that are close, but he's been absolutely remarkable on how he can shut down other teams. You got Mahomes. We all know what he's capable of doing. Can he be distracted? Yes. I mean, a young kid comes out of school. You give him $500 million to start, and of course he's now involved in everything and the media sensation, and of course everything's going on there. But he's mad at the team. He said, we're sleepwalking through the season. We're not playing like we should be playing. We're not dedicated. We're not enthusiastic. We're not putting out on the field what we're capable of. And this is after they're 9-0, because this is the kind of coach he is. So now they're going to Buffalo. Buffalo has beaten them in the regular season games a few times. They've had success against them. But in the playoffs, Buffalo can't beat them. Now, it's not that they're that far apart, but the pieces on the Chiefs, the winning attitude, the culture, the belief in themselves, the lack of making mistakes in big games, the ability to get the big score and make the big play at the right time, that's what makes a winner. And I can't believe that when you look at the line in this game, and I know there's lots of reasons to play Buffalo in this spot, because they definitely have revenge. They definitely want to beat them. They want to continue to beat them in the regular season. They also want to figure out how to beat them in the playoffs. But you're giving them 3 points, and this is a 2-time Super Bowl winner going for a three-peat, coming off a lucky win which might have woke them up a little last week. So there's a lot to be said for both sides of it, but I can't lay 3 points to it.
Doug, what about you? What do you think of this game?
Well, I've got some notes here. I agree with Jim. First of all, I think Kansas City is that good and that lucky. But some statistics here from your friend Mark Lawrence, by the way, Jim.
Absolutely.
Since 2016, Kansas City is 14-3 straight up, 17-1 against the spread as a road dog. And Mahomes is 12-4 straight up and 15-1 ATS as a dog. I'm not getting in the way of that. So, the only way, I'm not sure if I'm going to end up on this game, but the only way I would play it would be Kansas City. Hopefully it moves up to 3. Last I saw was 2.5. But if I can get a 3, I'm definitely on the Chiefs.
Doug, let me stay with you on the game tonight with the Commanders going to Philadelphia. Last time I saw it was 3.5 and 49. You like this game, and if you do, what do you like about it?
I don't have much of an opinion on the game, but Washington getting 3.5 looks pretty good to me. I mean, especially with that hook on top of the 3. So if I had to play the game right now, I think I would go with the Commanders.
What about you?
The issue I have with this is the Commanders are stepping up in class. Again, they did last week. They lost to Pittsburgh, but they played a very respectable game against, Tomlin's a great coach. Russell Wilson's starting to play a little bit like he did at Seattle. He fell apart at the end of his Seattle career, and then he was not very good in Denver at all. Both of those coaches, Pete Carroll and Peyton, wanted to get rid of him, and now he ends up on a very cheap contract with Pittsburgh, and actually Denver's paying most of his payroll. Off of, I think it's like $30 million a year or something like that, but Pittsburgh's only paying like $1 million. But he's playing well. He still has the deep ball. He knows how to manage the game. He reads defenses very quickly. He's just not as mobile as he used to be. None of us are as we age, but they designed an offense around his skill level, and they're avoiding doing what some of these other coaches did, and they're taking away his negativity. They're not making him do what he did when he was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So you have a very strong home field with a very strong coach and a very experienced quarterback. And, this is, it's very difficult to look at this. The Commanders are stepping up because this is a second really good defense they're going to face.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult situation. I, like Doug, would take the points. I'd look for a 4.
Ray, what about you?
Real quick, I call it the tale of Pennsylvania real quick. I learned a big lesson a couple weeks ago with Pittsburgh. Like you just said, culture, okay? Believing in the badge. That team who believes in the badge and the culture and stuff like that, they pulled out that win against the Jets, who had no culture. They don't believe in anything, just a talented room of guys. With Philadelphia, what is unique is they got culture. They got a great quarterback. It's a great team. They have all-stars. Their coach is a little loopy, but they're still great. What I love about the quarterback for Washington is that he's a running quarterback, but he's a throw first on the run, which is a very, very rare thing. I think, though, at the end of the day, tonight you have to go with Philadelphia. I think the money line is too much. If you want to play the game, if you have to play the game, you have to buy it down to 2. It's probably your best bet at 173.
Do you like the 49 over or under?
I think you're going to. I got a little. Some of my stats there. I should have mentioned the running game that Philadelphia has. This is a division game. They're both number 1 and number 2 in this division. And the running game now that Philadelphia has is something that I don't know that Washington can contend with for a full game, because Philadelphia can run the ball. And that's very difficult to stop, especially since you haven't been stopping it. So now you have a good coach in Quinn. They've got a whole new setup there with ownership and coaches and quarterback and everything else. There's a reason Philadelphia's favored in the game, and they should be favored. But again, I would take 4 with the dog.
It looks like it may just move to 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Jim, let me ask you this, because you've been very vocal about Aaron Rodgers for many weeks now.
22 years?
Yeah, let me just throw this out there. Is it time for him to retire?
Now, if somebody wanted to pay me $30-40 million a year and I'm having fun, I'm single, I'm dating all those girls in New York, why the hell would you retire? There's a lot of reasons to be there.
Because you have more time for all those women.
Other than playing football, you're just having fun, having a good. He's a great-looking guy, a big guy. He's athletic. I mean, what the hell? If he's in the New York limelight, it's a perfect place to be. Being a loser is not fun. But there's a lot of problems there other than Rodgers. And I'm not a big fan of his attitude. His talent is absolutely off the charts. He's absolutely one of the most talented quarterbacks that's ever played the game. But there's something wrong with the protection. the free shots that the defenses are getting on him, I never saw that in his career, and that's not him. That's the offensive line, which means it's the coaches. The ownership is shit there. They change everything all the time. They should have never fired Saleh. He was a great defensive coach, and while he was there, the defense was playing good, really good. They couldn't make the offense work, but that's why you need offensive coaches. So, but no, I don't. I think he's reached the end of the line because he is 40, and most people don't. They're not Tom Brady. They can't play till they're 43, 44, 45 years old. You do, and then he had the Achilles injury last year at the first 6 seconds of the first game. So it's the end of the line. But if somebody wants to pay him $40 million to come back next year, I'm going to stay.
Right.
Yeah, I'll take the Jets are not a professional football team. We saw that, and I'm not joking. We saw that on display in Pittsburgh. Okay, it's a talented group of guys who all have the bag. Great players, A-list players, all-star cast, but they don't believe in the badge. They have no culture. They don't respect the Jets badge. Look at what Pittsburgh did to them. Not one A-lister on that team. Not one household name. Yeah, Russell Wilson. Look how they honor that badge. Look how they play. Look at the culture. Look what culture can do to a team. And Pittsburgh dismantled them.
Yeah.
In every single way. And that's why the Cleveland Browns are terrible. We're not going to get into culture in that aspect, okay? But should he retire? Here's what I have to say. Of course he should retire. Of course he should retire. But here's the bottom line. He is great. And I think all the great ones have to be dragged off the court. Even Jordan got dragged off a court in Washington. Okay, even Montana got dragged off the field. Okay, so there's something going on. Someone's going to have to drag him off, and they keep giving him the money. He's going to keep taking it. So
look what Arizona did to them last week. I mean,
yeah.
They scored 31 points in 3 quarters.
Right. So if you're going to keep betting on a team like I just said, the Jets and stuff like that, who don't care about each other, I mean, at all, then that's on you, man. I mean,
let me throw this out to Doug. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
He brought up the Jets not being basically an NFL football team. If that's the case, where are the Chicago Bears? I don't know if they win a game the rest of the year. Are they the worst team in the NFL? And how bad can it get?
Before I answer that, let me just throw in something real quick about the Jets. And this puzzles me. If the Jets, and I agree with everybody here on the Jets, but why does the betting public and supposedly sharp money lose the numbers? Why does money keep coming in on the Jets every week?
because it's like NVIDIA. It's like NVIDIA.
Well, I mean, I think I know
it's got to be the media.
Yeah, but it's astounding. I mean, the fact that they were favored at Arizona,
That was
the way they
incredible. That was
were
incredible.
the
Yes.
way they were playing and the way Arizona was playing, and Arizona was catching points at home, I couldn't believe it. So, to answer your question on the Bears, I have some more. I'm a systems guy, so I have a tendency to read off.
As I said, people, go to systemplays.com. You can get all this information that Doug's getting you in even more in depth.
Yeah. Well, I've got some notes here on Chicago, so I'm glad the Chicago Green Bay game. I'm glad you asked me about that. Chicago's lost both games that they played to the two worst teams in the league, Carolina and New England. That tells you something right away.
That means they're below them. They're the worst team.
Well, they're trending that way, that's for sure. Here's some interesting stuff. And again, this is from your buddy Mark Lawrence.
And Mark knows his stuff.
Yeah, and Mark has a huge database, so I end up using a lot of his stuff. I don't have a huge database, so I depend on Mark's stats a lot. But Chicago's 0-10 straight up and ATS in the last 10 games in this series. And Chicago's 2-10 ATS in their last 12 games, coming off an outright loss as a home favorite, which they lost last week to New England as a favorite. And Green Bay is 11-0 straight up and 10-1 ATS in their last 11 games as a favorite off their bye week when facing an under 500 team.
Yeah.
So
That tells you a lot right there what to do.
pretty compelling case.
Run to the books.
You're going to pay a premium for it, but yeah.
Well,
just wanna
yeah.
play.
Yeah.
Well,
Caleb-
6.5 now, I think.
Yeah, you're probably going to see a 7. I mean,
Yeah.
although there's always the number of guys that are going to come in. Caleb Williams is not reading the defense. And
Actually
here's
down to 5.
Here's what's happened. down to 5?
Yeah, it's at 5.
Okay, well, now you're
Really?
talking.
Yeah.
Now you're talking. I mean, they're coming off the bye and they got trashed by the Lions and they're still in contention in that spot. They're going to come to play after that. Caleb Williams is not. Here's what's happening. He's not reading the defense quick enough, which means he has to stay in the pocket or do something proactively to find a receiver. And by that time, it's not happening for him. So he's come into the league without being properly prepared to read NFL defenses and the quickness of these defenders to get the ball as opposed to what he saw in college. He needs time. It's not saying that he's never going to be a great quarterback. He needs time and he needs culture. I'm taking Ray's note there on culture. and he needs coaching as a quarterback to do all those things. And that can happen if you get the right coach or coaches. So right now they're a mess. They just changed. They went to Waldron on the offensive coordinator issue. The head coach shouldn't be there. He should have been fired last year. They got a culture problem, and they probably have a locker room problem as well. Because these guys that are playing out there, they're either going to play football next year or they're going to bag groceries at the grocery store.
Does the coach make the end of the season? Does the head coach make the end of the season?
Oh, he should. Well, he shouldn't, but he should have been fired already. But that hasn't happened. I don't see them winning another game. I really don't.
Let me ask you this: do you think that Chicago, because we've all seen what Cleveland has done, all these other teams with quarterbacks, drafting good quarterbacks, and just ruining everyone's life. Do you think they should fail and fail fast? Chicago should just fail and just fail and fail fast.
So tank?
No, not that. But get rid of this coach now and get someone in there now and develop this kid right now. Do you think that this is the year that Chicago? Because if they let this guy hang around, they get another guy, like the Baker or Johnny or we've seen it all before. The last quarterback to throw it for 300 yards for Chicago, I think, was Sid Luckman. And I'm not joking.
Well, you know the one thing, right? You bring up a point because whoever Chicago brings in for a coach has got to be an experienced guy because this Caleb Williams ain't gonna listen to a young guy.
No,
he's an attitude problem.
Well, he's painting his fingernails and stuff like that. So I mean, you're gonna need something that can relate to this guy, a quarterback-centric type coach.
There's 32 teams. You need 32 good head coaches. They're hard to find.
They're hard to find. But could you imagine? I mean, how would someone like Dan Campbell relate to him? It would be tough,
Well, Dan Campbell, I've never met the man, but I've seen a lot of his interviews and stuff and his pressers. Players love that guy.
They do.
They love him.
They do.
And they
also like Vrabel. That's what I was alluding to. They should probably just cut this shit out and just get Vrabel in there and end it.
Yeah, that would be a good.
That'd actually be a great choice. Yes. Yes.
Let's go from one spectrum to the other in the same conference with the Lions, who last time I saw was the #1 team in the power rankings. Now giving 14 at home to Jacksonville. You've said it many times about double-digit favorites.
You got to look at. I mean, this team is right now. They're the best team in football. They're playing in the NFC, which right now is stronger than the AFC, except for, Kansas City and Buffalo. But it's a deeper league. They got better quarterbacks. They got better coaching. Everything's gelling right now for the NFC. They're stronger. They played last week. I mean, Goff threw 5 interceptions. They're down 23-7 at halftime. Then they shut out the Texans in Texas. Nobody talks about. They talk about the running game, the offensive line, and Goff, but nobody talks about their defense. Their defense is playing lights out.
They're biting kneecaps.
Yeah, what he said he would do when he went there.
Yeah.
They are playing lights out. That defense is playing, and they're playing a team that has absolutely nothing going for them right now. You talk about the team that needs to fire everybody. Their opponent is one of them.
Do you lay the 14?
No, I would lay 12.5 or 13. I would not lay 14. You're talking. Oh, they could easily shut them out. You could end up with a 26 or 24 nothing or 3 or 10 or something like that. But you could have got a much better number. I'm not going to chase a number over that now. Now I got to go 3 scores to cover. I'm not doing that.
What about you, Doug?
I won't say a steadfast rule. I've done it in the past, but very, very, very rarely do I ever lay double digits in the NFL. I agree with everything Jim says. Jacksonville is a awful team. Detroit is definitely, I think they're the best team in the league for sure. But it's just tough to lay double digits, so I would just pass on the game.
But if you were laying 10, would that be interesting?
Would you lay a first half?
Yeah, I might.
Yeah.
I might, yeah.
Yeah.
I might lay a first half.
There's got to be a number that would attract.
I
What number
would
would
go
you need
into
to
the
see?
prop market. If it's that high, 14, there's got to be a damn reason why. You know why it's going to be that high. So I would definitely just play a couple props at 3 to 1.
Yeah, I don't know what
something like that.
I don't know what the first half is, but that might be
What's the
intriguing.
team total on Jacksonville?
47.
No, team
The
total.
team total.
Oh, team total, I don't know.
I would probably bet under on the team total for Jacksonville.
Well, as far as the first half number, if Detroit is 14 now, or I mean for the full game, it's usually not half. It's usually a half plus the hook, and then they add a point. So it's usually around
Eight and a half?
7.5 to 8.5, somewhere in that area. I might consider that. But one problem you always run into when the obviously superior team is facing the obviously, bottom feeder is that how motivated is that favorite to, go out and just kill them? I mean, Detroit is great at home, so they can, if they wanted to, they could beat these guys with one hand tied behind their back. But what's the motivation? Are they going to come in and with the attitude like, hey, we'll just take care of these guys, mop them up, and we'll look forward to our next opponent?
Run the ball.
It's probably a better first half bet than the way.
Yeah, well,
that explanation.
Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think you just talked me into it.
Any-
accidental, I'm sure.
Any
but-
questions from anybody in the audience right now that we can go before I load up the next question? Any questions at all out there? Yes, sir.
I have one little bit off topic, but with what's going on in Dallas, what would your guys' recommendations be for the team? Is McCarthy someone that needs to go ASAP? Like, what are your opinions on the situation in Dallas?
Jerry Jones needs to either sell the team or retire from being the general manager coach.
Yeah.
And as long as he's been there, it's been a mess. And as long as he's there, it's going to be a mess.
He might bring in Aaron Rodgers. That'd be a great marriage.
Well, yeah, right. That would be. I mean, they overpaid Dak. He's the highest paid player in the league, which is a joke. He's a B+ quarterback. He's not an A quarterback. He's certainly not Mahomes. For Christ's sake, he shouldn't be paid with Mahomes. But they don't. Their offensive line is hurting. Their defense is shallow. They can't run the football. And the attitude there is, and here's another problem, and it's a great question, because a lot of coaches don't want to go there to be the head coach because they're not going to be the head coach. Jerry's the head coach, and you're just a figurehead collecting a paycheck. And then that's been that way for the 25 or 27 years he's been there. And God bless him for being able to make all the money he could make to buy a team. I mean, that's a great accomplishment in life, but he's not a football guy.
The question came from Jake, who's donated in from J. Lord Winery. So Jake, thanks for the wine. Everybody appreciates getting bottles of wine here. Everybody got tickets out there. Albert will give away tickets in just a little bit to find out who it is. Guys here on the panel, I'm going to ask you, I'll start with you, Jim, and if everybody has the same team, they do, but I'm curious. I'm going to name 3 teams, and which of these 3 teams you think is the most exciting team or team that has a chance to make the most noise in the second half between the Chargers, the 49ers, and the Bengals?
Well, first of all, the Bengals are playing the Chargers this week, so that whoever loses that game is probably, if the Bengals lose that game, they're probably done because of their record. But the problem in that, I'll try to analyze a little bit of this. Harbaugh's a hell of a coach. He's been a hell of a coach everywhere he's gone, college and pro. So you can't knock anything he does. They are limited in talent because they did lose some players in the offseason. Nobody talks about this, but they lost some people in the offseason where they had a different coach prior to this, and he didn't do anything good. But they're not what they used to be. The Bengals are coming in there with an offense that just can't be stopped. Now, the question there is, you've got a defensive team, the Chargers, that have been able to shut a lot of people down, and they probably one of the leaders in the league in shutting people down, but I don't think anybody can shut down the Bengals. They're going to score their points. You got 4 heads in that team on the offensive side. They're going to score points. You're going to get 4 touchdowns out of them no matter what. And the question is, the head coaching difference on these 2 teams is remarkable. Harbaugh is so much better than the head coach for the Bengals, and the defense is much better on the Chargers than it is on the Bengals. So the winner of this game, I think, can make some noise going ahead. Well, the other 2 teams were who?
The other one was the 49ers.
Well, the 49ers are getting players back. They're terrible on special teams, but they're going to be tough going forward. They have the pedigree. They got the coach. They're going to make noise, and they're going to be in the playoffs. And when they get to the playoffs, they're dangerous.
Bengals and Chargers. Do you like anybody in the game? And let me put an additional question on it. Do you like the team total for the Bengals over?
Yes and yes. The Bengals will score enough points to make the Chargers score points, and that because the tempo, the way the game is played out on the field, will determine how the other team has to respond. So if Chargers cannot stop the Bengals from scoring, they're not going to be able to stick with their conservative game attack, and they're going to have to put up points. And they have the players to do that. Especially, I mean, Herbert's a good quarterback, very talented. Never really had a chance with some of the coaches he's had, but they have the ability, especially against a poor defense like the Bengals. So I see a high-scoring game. A lot of people disagree with me on that.
Doug, what do you like of those 3 teams in the second half?
I'd have to go with the Chargers. If I'm not mistaken, the Chargers defense hasn't allowed a team to score more than 20 points all year, I believe, and that's saying something. And I'll slightly disagree with Jim on the total in that game. I think it's probably a good under situation, but not sure I'm going to get involved in it. But I know one thing, the Sunday night games are almost always dead unders, so just throwing that out. But to answer your question, I think overall, the rest of the year, I think the Chargers, with that defense and with Harbaugh as their coach, Ray talks about culture. I think Harbaugh has really instilled a great culture, so far at least, into this team.
Ray, what about you in those 3?
Well, out of all 3, Cincinnati's not going to make the playoffs, so I'm just going to let you know that right now. The game Sunday night, the Chargers. Here's the problem. I love Harbaugh, I love culture, I love the Chargers, but he's limiting Justin Herbert. He's limiting. He could be an explosive machine, but for some reason he's limiting him. I think that they're going to adjust it, a lot of points scored, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, probably the under. I think the Chargers somehow squeak it out. San Francisco, I love. They could run sideline to sideline with anybody. There's certain teams that can run sideline to sideline. That's very important right now. I think the Chargers is weak.
Ray, you've been talking the last few weeks about this Week 10 prop bet for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Is it out, and did you take it?
It's out.
Where are the 3 teams?
Well, they took that off, but with all these prop bets, the way these prop bets have been coming up, they took that one off. There's a couple new ones. I'm going to do this exacta. That's what I'm bringing to the table today. And you haven't heard about what I've been doing for the past 5 years, but I'll tell you, I'll just give you a quick one. It was plus 325. Last year was plus 325. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Week 10. Kansas City, Philadelphia, or San Francisco wins the Super Bowl. The field was minus 105. The year before that, it was plus 330. Kansas City, Buffalo, and the field minus. This year, it's not there. But what I did find is I kind of made my own. Right now, what I see is an exacta for Kansas City to beat Detroit, 14-1. Then I see Detroit to beat Kansas City at 12-1. Then I see San Francisco to win the Super Bowl outright, plus 625. Now, unless anybody here can tell me another team right now to lay the lumber, you could definitely scalp it in a couple of weeks if someone gets crazy because it happened to me before. I had a heavy one. It was that year. It was Tom Brady won, and the year after, whatever year that was. I'm getting old. But it was Philadelphia, Kansas City, and someone else. I had a plus 325 a monster. Then Cincinnati decided to get cute. Remember that? Remember they started knocking shit off and they started to make a name for themselves? Right? I had to hurry up and get on the phone and do something with Cincinnati. Then they ended up dying. I ended up winning anyway. But right now, that's what we got. 14-1, exacta. Kansas City over Detroit. 12-1, exacta. Detroit over Kansas City.
Good move.
San Francisco plus 625. If you want to do Baltimore, I don't know, throw a little Baltimore. They're not going to win.
That's interesting.
That sounds like a no-lose proposition,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that's what you do all
What's
the
that?
time.
Yeah, right.
You always come up with these no-lose propositions.
I'm just kind of scalping, just kind of going against it. I think you know what I like to do? I like to have fun with the props at the Super Bowl. So I like to lock it in. I don't have to sweat the game. That's why I don't like going to games, because you can't enjoy it because you got money in it. So now I lock it in. Then when the props come, you have fun with the props on the game day. You know.
You got to tell us about your JSX purse.
Oh, we can't.
No,
do
you
that.
can't do that on here.
The Newport Beach handbag program.
It's by invitation only. What games have we not talked about that you might like this coming week?
Boy, we've talked about some.
Jacksonville and Detroit. We talked about Washington and Philly. We talked to the Chargers and Bengals. Green Bay and Chicago.
Baltimore, Pittsburgh.
Well, that's. Go ahead. You got some. You probably have notes.
Pittsburgh might be the next team to beat Kansas City on Christmas Day, which would be a year from their last loss.
I do have some notes on that one. First of all, I can't believe Pittsburgh's getting 3 at home. I mean, I know Baltimore's a great team, but come on. Anyway, here's some more of my system type stuff. Since 2000, 24 of the 52 games between these two teams have been decided by 3 points or less. And of those 24 that were decided by 3 or less, half have been won straight up by the underdog. So, and Pittsburgh has won 7 of the last 8 games in this series, and they're during that stretch 6-2 ATS. So, guess which side I'm on. So,
Well,
I love Pittsburgh.
I'm on the same side for a lot of the same reasons, but I mean, I think this big uprated quarterback. When you look at Pittsburgh, really hasn't had a great quarterback, and I'm not saying Russell Wilson's great, but he's had a great history in the league. He's done remarkable things. Probably should have won 2 Super Bowls, except for that one play that was called at the end against New England.
Dumbest play in the history.
Yeah,
of sports.
that was pretty bad. I'm aching over that one still. It's been a lot of years.
I was on the wrong side of that one too, thanks to that play.
Yes, but that's you just don't give teams like that those kind of points. I mean, there's too much pedigree. Yeah, but Baltimore's great. And, I mean, you can't fault anything they do. I mean, their defense is a little bit weak. They do give up a ton of points. So their defense is weaker than Pittsburgh's. So I give Pittsburgh an edge there. Tomlin, Harbaugh. I mean, flip a coin. But it's going to be a hell of a game. But that definitely, for me, you have to take the dog.
Oh, absolutely. And this is one of those too where you have to get at least 3 because it will probably be that close. So if it goes down to 2.5, I wouldn't recommend Pittsburgh at that price. I would probably, if I had to, probably still take a shot at them on the money line if it got down to 2.5. But I don't know. So far during the week, I think the action's been pretty balanced. So hopefully the 3 will stick around for the next couple of days.
Doug, what do you have for numbers on a game that I find intriguing this week with Minnesota going to Tennessee? You know, it's 6 right now.
I don't.
You don't have anything on it?
I don't have anything on that.
Ray, do you like this game at all?
Minnesota, I think it's a bigger number for them. Sometimes you got to ask yourself, are they that good or is that team that bad? If you have to choose one, I would have to lay the lumber with Minnesota.
It's intriguing to me because Tennessee's not good.
They're not
and
good.
It's Minnesota the real deal.
And I think it's very similar to a couple other games this week. They just want to get the hell out of there. They want to get these. They're not looking ahead, but they want to get them out. They want to play it safe. They want to run the ball. They want to just get out of here. Get out of it. There's a couple games on the slate this week, and this is one of them. They're going to win. Okay, they can carry the ball. They can do this. It's just 6. How close do they want to keep it? How,
Could be a money line game.
Could be an under.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to score, and they're not going to risk their lives.
I mean, I think this is because if Minnesota falls, this will tell you that they're not very good.
Right.
So I find this game intriguing on Sunday.
They were almost 4.5 to 1 in yardage last week, and should have covered that game easily. I mean, they just made mistakes. There were a couple of teams that made a lot of mistakes, and Minnesota was one, Detroit was another. But Detroit, they both won, but nobody covered in that. But you can talk about another game that's really not an interesting marquee game that somebody's going to want to tune into. But what the hell happened to the Rams on Monday night? Where did they go? I mean, you got the coach, you got the home field, you got Stafford, you got the wide receivers there, you got everything going for you. And Miami made them. Where did this Miami defense come from that shut them down to 5 field goals? They never got a score. So I mean, what happened there? And now they go on the road, the cross country. There's probably going to be a little bit windy, maybe some rain in New England. And what the hell happened?
Sometimes NFL teams, it's just you can't show up in a week. It could, who knows? Could be some banged up players that nobody knows about. But every once in a while, you see a team and they just don't show up. It's a long season, and could have just been an off week. And I agree. They almost look like they got exposed to all their weaknesses, but they also look like they weren't there mentally either.
Well, Stafford is older. He's 16 years in the league,
Yeah.
which means he's about 38.
He's up there.
Yeah, so he's in that Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and there's a cliff that you fall off. You don't age gracefully, or just it doesn't happen over. It just one day you walk out there and you're old.
Well, the Rams weren't supposed to be a juggernaut this season, preseason anyway.
No,
I think they kind of fooled us a little bit.
Well, yeah, and you look back at the way they beat Seattle, when Seattle said I'm not kicking the field goal at the end of the game, and that was probably terrible. I don't know where some of these decisions come from, but we could have you want to have a discussion about something? Have a discussion about analytics and how it's used, and you would be the guy. Probably because you're so mathematical and everything about that. I think analytics are just being exposed by a lot of people that don't understand it and don't know how to use it. You play a 16 or 17 game season and you say, okay, these analytics, if in this situation you go for 2, in that situation you don't go for 2, here you go, you're 4th and 4 on your own 20-yard line, you go for it, and you don't on the other side. I mean, it's nuts. And you saw a coach down with Chargers, Staley. He lived by analytics, and he was just exposed as probably the worst head coach ever.
Well, that's what I call, because when I go out and I scout athletes, analytics can be a very good thing for athletics, and then you can be paralyzed by analytics because all you do is look at a number, and if the number is that and you want this, it's a no. And you don't open your eyes before analytics were around and look at athleticism and talent and potential and growth, and all you are is a numbers guy. And those guys that are numbers guys, and when you're paralyzed by analytics, you can tell the guys and the families that are trying to improve their kids by analytics, and they just hit a wall. You have to there's a balance of both to make it good.
Oh, I agree with you. There's some things analytics can't. You can't put analytics on Patrick Mahomes with 13 seconds left at the 22-yard line.
And if you're a coach that went by a page, that would never work. It would never work if you just went by analytics. Go, well, we got to run this.
We had a guy on the set a couple of weeks ago, Steve Fezzik, who's a brilliant guy, great handicapper. He was an actuary, he understands numbers. And he said it made a difference in some of these 2-point things, how much time is left on the clock. So if you give Patrick Mahomes 32 seconds and he's down 2, he's going to march downfield and get a field goal, or at least attempt one. But if you take it down to 15 seconds, so there were 2 mistakes in that game where they called the timeout at 32, and they could have let the clock go down, and then it would have made it a positive expectation. But there's a lot that goes into it, that these coaches that are using these analytics and the play callers that are not always just the head coach, it's sometimes the offensive coordinator, they really don't know what the hell they're doing. And they have to live by this chart that you said they're looking at, and they don't know how to use it.
No, they don't. And the guys that are so analytics only look at the charts and like, oh, I have to call one of these 4 plays, or it has to be this. Instead of throwing that stuff away and going back to what it was before we had analytics and just using your brain that you were hired for and looking and get a feel for the game. As a former coach, you got to look, not football, but basketball, it was all about feel of what I was going to run and what you should run. I could care less about analytics at the time when I feel like we were starting to get momentum. And as a fan and watching it, you've been around the game for so many times, you can feel when a team's starting to get momentum.
Oh, absolutely.
The coaches have to know it.
Here's a simple question. If it's you or me calling the plays, anybody out there, and you have 30 seconds on the clock, and you can go up, you could go 2 points, and the opposing quarterback is Gardner Minshew or Patrick Mahomes. Now, am I going to kick the extra point?
Or am I going to go for 2?
Is there a different decision to be made because of the quality of the quarterback that's on the other side?
Absolutely.
And that's what's not happening.
And Holmes is on his home field.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Everything plays.
Albert, start giving away some tickets. We'll announce those pretty soon here. Who's going to be winning some
Well, I
bottles of
got
wine.
good news for everybody that's here. There's only 4 guys. But my good friend from J.O.R. gave me 4 bottles, so everybody's a winner.
Everybody's a winner today. J-Lore gave. Give it up for Jake and J-Lore. Everybody's getting bottles of wine. That is outstanding. Everybody's getting bottles of wine. And trust me, you're getting great wine. It's very good wine. So next week, what we're going to do, for those of you that are going to be here with us, we're going to be recording 2 shows. We're going to record the show for next week that'll be live for everybody that's watching right now out there on YouTube and all the channels and Jim Feist's live Facebook. We will be doing that. And then we're going to take a quick break and record a second show that'll be released the following Thursday because we won't be here because of Thanksgiving. So we will be recording 2 shows next Thursday on the patio with Jim Feist. And I can tell you who's coming. We're going to have Jeff Whitelaw and Kenny Thompson with us to record those 2 shows. So
of course, the negative to doing that is we're not going to know the results from the one week to go to the next week. But we're going to do our form of analytics.
Yeah, we're going to be trying to be Nostradamus.
And trends and stats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Ray for coming out of the audience and filling in and coming to the panel. Lamarcus, thank you so much.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
Doug Fitz, systemsplays.com. Thank you so much for joining Jim Feist, the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much. It was a lot of fun.
And I wish you the best of luck at the eye doctor. I hope you don't come back with glasses. Seriously, I do.
Well, it won't be glasses, but it might be an eye.
Hey,
Until next week,
one
yes.
thing to say. You're talking about analytics. A guy named Gil Alexander, is he the main analytics guy? He will be here on Thursday, January the 9th.
Oh, Gil.
All right.
Gil Alexander here Thursday, January 9th. We'll be doing the show all the way through the football season. Until next Thursday, my name is Tommy Canale. We will see you then. Good luck on your bets, everybody.
Yeah.